Lowe's is the go-to destination where I can explore the latest innovative Craftsman products, including their new V20 power tool battery platform. The Craftsman's V20 cordless power tool lineup features a high-capacity lithium-ion battery that's part of Craftsman's interchangeable battery system. It works with all the tools in their V20 lineup, gives you the runtime you need and the power that you deserve. For the latest Craftsman's products, visit Lowes.com/footballers. Lowe's is the new home of Craftsman.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from pristineauction.com studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm talking to you, Jason Moore.
Yeah, I am all of those things. Thank you for talking to me so broadly.
I am everything and nothing at the exact same time. Welcome to the podcast, the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Our fearless leader, our Captain Kirk, he's a man down right now. He's down with the sickness, too much disturbed. Get better, Andy Holloway, but we're holding it down. I am your host for today, Mike the Fantasy Hitman Wright. Jason Moore is to my right.
I am happy to be here. I feel like you're more of a Kirk. Andy would be more of a Jean-Luc.
He's a Picard.
He's a Picard.
Look,
I got the look for Picard.
I gladly accept being Captain Kirk over Picard.
Yeah.
Look, Captain Kirk lived his best life on a weekly basis.
Yes, he did. Beating up monsters and
just being a ridiculous human being. And of course, cardboard bear extraordinaire, Jay Grizz, holding it down over there.
We're gonna have to fight, me and him, when we get to Mitchell Trubisky today.
Oh,
yeah. I'm gonna steal your salmon, son.
That is a great point. Let's get into the quick question. We put this out on social media, had a lot of buzz, a lot of great answers for this, but I pose this to you, Jason. If you could pick – now, Jason, I need you to listen very carefully.
Okay, I'm listening.
Very carefully, because the question –
I know you don't like my answer.
The question is distinct. There is nothing that could shake the foundation
of the question,
of the wording for this question.
All right, I'm going to really tune in.
If you could pick any two people to sub in for Romo and Nantz announcing the Super Bowl, who would it be for entertainment purposes?
Give me Romo. Give me Romo.
Now, Jason,
and Al Michaels.
I said, without a shadow of a doubt, make sure you listen to the question verbatim.
I heard your question, but he came to the bench, and I was like, oh, no, shoot, get back out there. We need you. He subbed in for himself. Look, if I had to take
timeout so he could just get back in without missing a play.
Exactly. If I got to take Romo out, then I got to go. Now that we're down to two, I'd probably go you and me.
Oh, we would smash.
We would sub in for them. The problem is I feel like we're both color commentators.
We are.
We would just, we don't need to do the whole play-by-play. Like, you're watching the game. You see what happens. Like, oh, he fires, he kicks the ball. It's a high looping. No, just watch the plays. We'll give you the color.
It would also be a lot of, that guy. Look at that guy. Look what he did.
I really doubt it would be, Mike. Shame on you if that's true. We had some great answers coming in off the socials. A lot of Madden and Summerall. My personal favorite, which when I read this, shame on me.
For not coming up with it?
Well, for one, not coming up with it, and two, not immediately getting the reference. I went, wait, who's that?
Oh, yes.
Who is Pepper Brooks and Cotton McKnight?
Pepper needs new shorts.
It's a bold move, Cotton.
That's the announcers from Dodgeball. A lot of Will Ferrell and John C. Reilly. WWF or E, depending on where you're coming from. Just classic. Jim Ross and Jerry Lawler. And a lot of people wanted Morgan Freeman and or Snoop Dogg.
It was a high kick looping in the air. I saw a ton of Pat McAfee, the ex-punter who is such a fun guy.
He is. He's a unique fella.
He's a unique fella. He'll have you entertained.
He'll
and
bring
of course,
some hype.
Mark Waltenberg.
Oh, goodness.
Mark Waltenberg. Not Mark Walton.
Mark Waltenberg.
Yeah.
A fictitious person.
A fake person commentating. I'll be the sideline reporter dressed up as the fictitious person.
Speaking of socials, you can follow us. You can be watching this show right now, youtube.com/thefantasyfootballers. Follow us on socials at the FF Ballers is Twitter. You can check out the Instagram. We're working on that, instagram.com/fantasyfootballers. And thank you for listening on Apple Podcasts. Hit that subscribe button. Leave us a friendly review, Spotify, and you can also listen to the show ad-free on Stitcher Premium. And before we jump any further, I want to remind people, the footballers are only here twice a week.
That's so sad.
That's only nonsense and some sense twice a week.
Perfectly worded. No, you nailed it. That was perfect.
There's some sense of this show.
100% there's some sense.
If you'd like to throw that completely out the window and go 100% nonsense, we have an entertainment-only podcast called the Spitballers Podcast. It drops every single Monday. Highly encourage you to check it out. If you like this show, you're going to slide right into that. Absolutely no problem. We're going to skip the news today.
See, people are like, they can never tell their friends about this show.
Sure.
Because we're the secret weapon. They're like, no, I want to win the championship. I want the hashtag #FootClear title.
Right.
I don't tell my league mates about you. You can share that show.
Absolutely. And that's our sleeper cell, where we're just like, you can't tell people about the footballers, but you tell them about this show, and then they find out about the footballers.
Do you think people are worried about that? Do you, like, genuine question. The people that don't tell people about this show, maybe they're listening to Spitballers, they're loving it. They want to share it with the friends. They want to have a good time so they can share in all those inside jokes, but then they go,
eventually they'll get back.
They'll get back.
I don't know.
Just share it.
It's definitely possible, but hey, no news. If you are starting a dynasty league, you got to check out the Sleeper app and the Sleeper platform. We highly recommend that. Jay, let's get back into the truth.
You want answers?
I think I'm entitled.
You want answers?
I want the truth!
You can't handle the truth.
This is Quarterbacks Part 2. If you missed the top 5, it's in Part 1.
Yeah, just go back.
That was Tuesday's show. Jay, break down what we are talking about for these quarterbacks.
So we take a look and we go through and actually, if there's a game that the player missed, that's not counted. Nobody started them. If they played 2 snaps and got a concussion, a la Aaron Rodgers week 17, we left that in because people started that
him.
player. And so we wanted to take a look at what is the truth on these quarterbacks, not just where did they finish. We're going to talk about Aaron Rodgers here in a second. He finished quarterback 6 in 4-point scoring. But was he as consistent? Was he the 6th most consistent? Did he actually help you win on a regular basis, or did he cause losses in fantasy? And we'll take a look at that. We categorize them into 3 categories. Great games where you are basically usually going to land in the top 3 at the quarterback. Like you won the week on the back of
your
that
quarterback
Pat Mahomes.
Carried.
Yeah, you Pat Mahomes that week. A good game where you score more than 17 points and you're on average going to be in the top 12 at the position. And then the games where you bust, where so there's that in-between period where you just had a game. But then the games where if your quarterback was
just had a game?
Right, like, he's not good, but he didn't kill me.
He had a game.
He just had a game.
Usually with the phrase had a game infers that something very positive happened.
I'm an unusual fella, Mike.
Brooks, are you following me on that?
I'm with you, Mike.
I had a game, which is it's funny it's a funny phrase to imply that you crushed. You're like, yeah, I had a game.
Yeah, I had a game. How about
it's the humble brag.
I had a meh. No.
Wait, were you trying? Yeah. You were trying to go a full mic right of
yes.
Meh.
Yes, I had a meh. That's the new game.
It's not as easy as you think.
I mean, you're a pro meher, but yeah, he had a meh. Otherwise, the bust games, those are the ones where he's not even in the top half of the league, not in the top 16 at the position.
Mistakes were made.
You're scoring fewer than 15 points, and you probably did not overcome just awful quarterback performance that week. And then we put it to our proprietary ranking and come up with their consistency rank.
So number 6 on the year, you alluded to it, Mr. Aaron Rodgers. Number 6 on the year, but a consistency rank of 11.
I mean,
thank you.
Look, where you took Aaron Rodgers, and nobody – when you draft Aaron Rodgers, you had him all year. Nobody traded Aaron Rodgers because you were the guy that reached for him and took him high. And other people, when he's disappointing and not being the number 1 quarterback, he wasn't Pat Mahomes this year. He was the number 6 quarterback. So nobody's trading for Aaron Rodgers. He's been a disappointment. So you hold on to him, and you're not going away from Aaron Rodgers. You drafted him high. You're not switching out and putting in, Josh Allen over Aaron Rodgers in most situations. So you're just rolling with ooh.
Excellent.
Josh Stallion. Thank you, Mike. So Aaron Rodgers was a guy you played every single week all year long, and did he help you?
Yeah, so
certainly not for where you drafted him.
He didn't. The problem was Aaron Rodgers, only 19% of his games were great. And that's where Aaron Rodgers usually reigns supreme.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers will have so many 4-touchdown games because, we've talked about this in the past. He's had a large chunk of years from 2011 on where he was averaging, when he had Jordy, he was averaging 40 touchdowns a season.
I mean, he was checking the mic. He was either 1 or he was number 2.
Right.
Every year on the season.
1-2.
That's why he earned his spot.
25 touchdowns this year.
But only 19% of his games were great. 56% were still good. He only busted 19% of the time, which for a quarterback is still a solid number. This is what I wanted to bring up about Aaron Rodgers. You taught the 25 touchdowns. That is an anomaly for Aaron Rodgers. This was his lowest touchdown percentage by an entire 1% since he became a starter in 2008. I mean,
and that's not completion percentage where 1% is nothing. Touchdown percent, the difference between if you're 4.5% or 5.5% is monumental.
I mean, here's his last 3 years. 2015, 5.4, 6.6, 6.7. He plummeted to 4.2. Was this a causation of Aaron Rodgers getting a little long in the tooth for you, or was this a product of the team around him?
I will say this. When I watched Aaron Rodgers this year, he did not some of this has to fall on Aaron Rodgers. I don't think it's long in the tooth. I don't think he's not going to be able to bounce back. I don't think this is the beginning of the end or any of those things. Some of this does have to fall on him. There were passes that you just don't see Aaron Rodgers miss that he missed on the reg. I mean, he was just, regularly missing some of those.
He was lacking his Metamucil.
But he needed to be a little bit more regular. And, the issue, though, is not just that. There is the double whammy of outside of Devontae Adams, there was just crap. There's a bunch of rookies trying to figure it out. They'd have some good games.
And no one did.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling would step up from time to time.
Equanimous was there.
You have the ghost of Randall Cobb.
Yeah.
He's done. And then the ghost of Jimmy Graham. So that was part of it. And then you combine that with the worst imaginable, least creative route concepts from head coach Mike McCarthy, which is why he gets the boot. So next year, it's going to be interesting to see what they do. Cobb is a free agent. I'm sure he's gone. There's no way
I would believe so.
that they're going to pay to bring him back. The early report is that they are going to pay to bring Jimmy Graham back. Sorry, Green Bay Packers fans. And but they've got to, hopefully the rookies that they drafted last year step up, and with their new, offensive-minded coach, they can do a little bit more.
Yeah, his ADP is going to be a fascinating thing to watch because he was always the number 1 or the number 2 quarterback that you would go after. Clearly, he won't be number 1.
He'll be number 2 behind.
You think he'll stick with number 2?
I think he will stick at number 2. He'll be drafted behind Pat Mahomes. That's my guess.
Sure. Next on the list, Jared Goff.
Now introducing Jared Goff,
the player formerly known as King Goffrey, who is now known as Jared Goff for some stupid reason on this show.
Hope you were Remember the Foot Clan over on Join the Foot? That was a Footcast breakdown. I mean, we
literally broke down.
My glasses were fogging up. We were crying over the stupidity of accidentally saying Garf.
Number 7 on the final list, but number 13 in your heart and the consistency rank, Jared Goff. I can't even. I got halfway through his name. It was like, this is wrong.
Yeah, no, it's Garf.
No, it's Jared Goff.
Jared Goff.
The first half of the season, even more than the half, I would say 2/3 of the season was fantastic. 31% of his games were great. 63% of his games were at least good. But then the wheels fell off.
Yes, they did.
31% bust rate. If you rode Jared Goff into the fantasy playoffs, you did not make it. Or I should say, highly unlikely you survived what he gave you those weeks because it was putrid.
So here's something interesting. I'm going to take a 30,000-foot view for a second. Go away from Jared Goff.
I hope you have a spacesuit.
Is that space? 30,000 is too high? Is that not what?
Look,
do airplanes
I'm no Brian
not travel?
Cox. I don't know.
I think 30,000
is that cruising altitude?
I think that's cruising altitude.
Well,
for
to
a
be
large
fair, you
plane.
still need a spacesuit if you were outside of a commercial airline.
Okay, no, I don't think that's true.
Yes, you would freeze to death.
I'm falling. I'm gonna warm up. Anyways, so wait, let's. Oh, Dad's away, and we are just whatever we want. Congratulations, Foot Clan, on this episode. Thank you. We'll rein it in, Jay.
Never.
But here's what I wanted to look at. So there's an interesting thing. You'll start to see a pattern here as we're talking. When we talk about Jared Goff, when we talk about Drew Brees, when we talk about Phillip Rivers, Kirk Cousins, all of a sudden this year there was this massive trend of these quarterbacks who had such an amazing first 2/3 of the season, and they all fell off. I went and I looked at all of these quarterbacks that I just named, and I took out weeks 13 through the rest of the season. And during that stretch, if you took those games away from them, they were all basically, if you did it one at a time, they all jump to the quarterback consistency rating of like number 2. Everyone was there, but the problem was they all hit this wall, or defenses caught up, whichever it is, and that's where I think we need to say, what is the truth of the quarterback position? Because this year you could get to the playoffs with all those quarterbacks I named, but if you kept rolling with them and you weren't willing to stay water and pivot come that last 5 weeks.
I mean, that's tough. Jared Goff from weeks 2 through 11, the quarterback 2 in total points.
Yes, he was
playing fantastic.
He was on fire. I mean, and like I said, if you take out his last weeks, he was the quarterback consistency during that time of quarterback 2.
I'm going to check, but I don't remember off the top of my head.
When Gurley?
No, Cooper Kupp.
It was before week 13. It was definitely before then. I don't think that it was the Kupp problem.
Okay, so his final game was week 10. So it's
near then. Week 11, the next week he had a great week, but then the bye week and he was off. So
yeah.
The question when it comes to Jared Goff is which version was the real thing? Because when it comes to Drew Brees, you can have a different argument. Like, was the arm getting a little weaker at that age down the stretch? You know, you saw this from some of the aging quarterbacks. Jared Goff, I think it was more of a team thing. We lost Cooper Kupp, lost Todd Gurley.
I think there's a lot to this Cooper Kupp thing because you can look at when Jared Goff was great. And then all of a sudden, week 6, you hit a snag. You know what week 6 was?
Yes.
That's when we thought Cooper Kupp was out for the season and had 0 receptions. So I think Cooper Kupp is extremely important to this offense,
and as is Todd Gurley.
C.J. Anderson.
yes. I believe future Super Bowl MVP.
Yes,
C.J. Anderson.
Oh, please let it happen.
Oh, I would.
Please let it happen.
I would ascend immediately. I'm gone from the show. My belief is that Jared Goff is a guy I'm going to go hard after next year. I think because of how he finished the year poorly, unless, of course, he has some great Super Bowl MVP performance and everybody's on him, I think what you saw the first 2/3 of the season is more indicative of what you're going to get with Sean McVay, with a high-powered offense, with health coming into a season. So I'm a fan of Jared Goff next season. I believe that it was team issues that caused the collapse in the last 5 weeks.
From young man to old man, Drew Brees comes in at number 8, but a consistency rank of number 14. Man, it was a strange season for Drew Brees, who was absolutely crushing. 40% of his games were great, and that's what carried him to that number 8 finish, because 33% of his games were bust.
Yeah, and you want to know when those games came?
When it mattered
They
for fantasy
all
players.
came at the end of the season. Yeah, the fantasy playoffs. So, that's where I question, what was it the arm? Was it actually the age, the wear, the tear, the season?
Okay.
You saw the offensive line starting to give up a little bit more pressure, and he didn't overcome that the way that you would have expected him to overcome that based on how he's playing the beginning of the year. I'm more worried about Drew Brees going into next season than I am Jared Goff. I would draft Goff over Brees even if they were the same ADP.
And I didn't mention it for Jared Goff, but I'm going to say it now because he was the same as Drew Brees. The home road splits were incredible. Jared Goff was 13 points better at home. Drew Brees, we know that Drew Brees is better at home, but 11 points better at home. That's hard to handle.
Yeah,
for a full-time starter.
I'm glad you bring that up with Goff, because I do believe that a lot of the success of Goff, when they're at home and they can quiet the place down and he can basically have Sean McVay, they get to the line early. And McVay, they put a man in motion. They take a look at what the defense is doing. They don't give him time to sub. And McVay basically will call in a play while he's still got the earpiece working before that turns off, which is like 15 seconds,
I think. Yeah.
Left on the I want to say shot clock, and I'm going to roll with that on the shot clock.
Sure.
And so on the road, when it's loud and noisy and you can't hear that, and he can't just have Sean McVay in his head, I wonder if that makes an impact. And then you also saw certain ones of those road games that really impacted the home road split. We have to be fair. There was the albatross of the game against Chicago,
right,
which was a super cold weather. I mean, this is a guy who grew up in California, went to California schools, played it. He was Cal, right?
Yeah.
And then now he's in Los Angeles. So now going to the cold weather game, I think in week 14 where he put up a negative point performance, that's going to swing the tide of the home road splits.
Do you have anything more for Drew Brees? Like, how do you feel about Drew Brees entering into next year? Because Drew Brees was one of the hottest contested players on this show.
Definitely between you and I.
I was super bullish. You were way off.
Yes.
And somehow we both won.
And honestly, going into next year, I'm higher on him than I was going into this season. I'm certainly not going to be bullish to the point of what he was doing early in this season. I think that he's a Hall of Famer. He's on a great offense. He's got everything you need, and he's going to be simply a matter of average draft position.
Sure. Before we move on to the next quarterback, want to remind you, the Fantasy Footballers Ultimate Draft Kit. Pre-orders start Super Bowl Sunday.
That's this Sunday.
That is this Sunday.
That's pretty awesome. Do you get anything extra for pre-ordering?
You absolutely do, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
You do. If you order anytime from Super Bowl Sunday through
June
March
1st,
through March 1st. So this is the early pre-order.
Oh,
yeah. This is the early pre-order. We're getting you hyped.
I'm getting news right now.
We're giving back. We're giving an additional $10 gift card to Shop Ballers.
What?
Obviously, you get the early access to the dynasty rankings and the rookie rankings,
which come out soon after the NFL draft. Just want to prepare people. Yes,
correct. And we have a chance to win the ultimate Fantasy Footballers prize pack, including a studio tour, sit-in of a recording.
That's unbelievable.
Just a bunch of awesome stuff. More details will come.
Yeah.
But you already know you're getting the ultimate draft kit. So on Super Bowl,
so get it for the cheapest possible price and get some cool bonus stuff.
Celebrate yourself.
Treat yourself.
Where at, guys? Where do you go?
Oh my goodness, where would we be without Brooks?
Thank you, Brooks. UltimateDraftKit.com.
Oh, okay. I'll go there on Sunday.
Thank you.
Bookmark it.
Number 9, Russell Wilson on the year. However, Number 8 in consistency.
He was, he was solid, but never great, and that was the issue. He
yes,
didn't
13% of his games were great. That's a putrid number for a top 10 quarterback, but 69% of his games were good. He only busted 25% of the time. He was completely hamstrung by his offense.
Yes.
And that is the problem with Russell Wilson.
Yeah, I mean, you cannot have...
Because it's not changing.
Well, they want to be a run the boat, gently down the field type of team.
Wow.
Look at the... Oh, no. Thank you. I'll be here all day. So, listen to these attempts for the career of Russell Wilson. These are the passing attempts, and you'll notice a trend.
I'm having trouble moving on from the joke, Jason.
Yeah, thank you. This is a trend. 393 passing attempts, 407, 452.
Yeah, he was ascending.
483, 546, 553.
Because they realized they had one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and they said, hey, let's make it Russell Wilson's team.
But then he went from 553 passing attempts down to 427. That's like his sophomore year in the league. And as great as he is, as efficient as he is, as much as he had a perfect passer rating on 71 attempts to Tyler Lockett, you cannot be winning a fantasy championship on the back of 427 passing attempts unless your touchdown rate is just – I mean, his touchdown rate was astronomical. It was 8.2%.
That's outlier number.
And you still did not get enough from him because looking at it holistically, right, it's not just the consistency that matters for a quarterback. To me, I need quarterbacks that boom. I need quarterbacks that put up 30 points. I want those huge – obviously, everyone wants the Pat Mahomes weeks, but you look at
Where did he finish last year?
Russell Wilson?
Yeah, I'm going to vet that while you're working through your point.
My point is I'm off Russell Wilson completely. He was as consistent as his finish was, and he finished number 9. And that sounds great. That sounds excellent.
He was number 1 last year, and there's not much of a difference. Maybe it was just the other quarterbacks around him.
He did not put up huge games almost ever this year. And if my quarterback, and keep in mind, Russell Wilson, you have to draft a little bit earlier. If my quarterback's not giving me huge week-winning performances, no thank you. I'm out. But for those reasons, I'm out. Because he's going to cost more than...
Did you just Shark Tank Russell Wilson?
Yeah, and unfortunately, he didn't make the cut.
Look, he dropped about 500 passing yards. He went up a passing touchdown. I mean, it's got to be just the guys around him that happened to go up. And dropping 200 rushing yards.
That matters.
That'll make a huge difference.
Yeah, because
come on, Russell, you need to run, buddy.
Well, the thing is his rushing yards a lot of times came from those scramble plays. They came from calling a drop back passing attempt, and they weren't doing that. They were he doesn't get to run the ball when he hands it off ever.
Right. Yeah. So number 10, Dak Prescott.
I was blown away when he
number 10 on the season, but number 20 in the consistency.
However,
it was a different story.
Yes.
It was a different story once the Dallas Cowboys traded for Amari Cooper.
The first 5 weeks of the season, Dak was so incredibly Dak was so incredibly bad. He was the quarterback 30 in fantasy for those first 5.
That felt really bad.
That
felt bad.
He was
because I liked him.
He was horrific, and the Cowboys looked like they were. I mean, you already knew that they were a dead team. Their head coach is going to get replaced. Then the trade happened. They traded for Amari Cooper, and after he arrived, Prescott responded as a top 8 quarterback in 5 of his next 8 starts. He posted a 71% completion rate from week 9 until the end of the season as the quarterback 6 during that span. He was...
Are we back?
I'm back.
Dak Street's back, all right?
Dak Street's back.
All right. Dude, I like it.
Oh, yeah. Look, I mean, he was How can you blame him, Dak, when you lose Jason Witten, you lose Des Bryant, you replace him with nothing, you downgrade the offensive line a little bit. I mean, they're not the same unbelievable offensive
they had some
line.
Injuries.
So, I mean, now all of a sudden you get them a piece, you start to figure things out. I like the fact that they fired their offensive coordinator. That's huge news.
Right.
And we'll talk about that on an upcoming show here pretty soon about all the coordinator and offensive head coaches changes. And look, I think Dak is going to be a great pick next year. He's not a guy that's going to go early.
I don't hate it.
And as a late round guy, I want someone who has the chance to be great. And his rushing is what, I mean, he had 6 rushing touchdowns.
Yes, and those will not go away.
No, because they're not long breakaway touchdowns that you
when
just
it's not
can't
always
repeat.
it's not always scrambling. I mean, you have read options, you have Dak just calling his own number and running once they get inside the 5.
Here, yeah, his rushing touchdowns.
I think he had 5.
No, I've got bad news.
Uh-oh.
I've got really bad news here.
Oh no! I know what's gonna happen.
It's the mark.
Oh,
It's the mark.
Hold on.
It's the mark of the beast. He's been in. Oh no, he's been in the league 3 years, and he's got 666 rushing touchdowns.
The mark of the beast.
I'm off of Dak. This is the kind of incredible insight you get from the Fantasy Footballers podcast. This is when we make stupid comments like that. Is when I feel the need to remind people that we had 3 top 15 ranked analysts, 2 top
20. That was 19.
Oh, I apologize.
Thank you.
2 in the top 10.
Number
1 in the top
11,
5.
Phillip Rivers, consistency rank of number 9. He was the same as Russell Wilson, though. He did not have that boom, boom, pow. Only 6% of his games were great, 69% good, 25% bust. So those numbers are fantastic. You just didn't get – he was almost there.
So Phillip Rivers –
but he was still – he helped people win.
I don't know that that's true.
I strongly believe that it's true. He did not help you win in your championship when he posted an absolute fart in Week 16.
It's like I said, some of these older guys late in the season
one,
from Week 13 on were putrid. They fell off a cliff. Whether some were injured, right? Cam Newton got injured, and he wasn't the same. Phillip Rivers, he just wasn't the same at the end. Maybe that was Melvin Gordon going down or whatnot. But Phillip Rivers has a long history of, in fantasy, finishing as a top 12 quarterback, but always near the end, always quarterback 11, quarterback 12. And if you look on a weekly basis of where his fantasy finishes were, they're all pretty okay, but he doesn't go out and win games. And look, because you draft Phillip Rivers at the very end of your draft this last year,
him. I'm going to be on him again next year.
I don't think
I
I'm
like
going to be
the
as
offense.
bullish. I do love the offense, and I love that Mike Williams is a
That's
target.
a huge part of it is Keenan Allen's a beast. He's an alpha. He's a 1. But Mike Williams is, to me, next year will be the emergence of Mike
And
Williams.
you got Hunter Henry, who should be back. Stephen A. Smith is excited.
Nice.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, look, the problem I have with Phillip Rivers is that his end-of-the-year rankings, to me, always look a little bit better than how helpful he was. And I wanted to bring up, so I talked about the last 5 weeks, how this season so many quarterbacks that were great and got you to the playoffs just fell off a cliff. Through those last few weeks, okay, here's a good barometer. Was anybody worse than Case Keenum this year?
Ooh.
I mean,
no, probably
his
not.
consistency rating, we won't talk about him, but it was like 33. I think he was the lowest consistency
33.
rating.
He was out of a starter range?
Yes, I believe so. He was.
Yes, I'm looking at it. He was 19 on the season, consistency rank of 33.
Yeah, he was putrid. So the last 5
To
weeks.
be fair, Stafford was not in consistency, but finished behind him.
Yeah.
Stafford was serial against your fantasy team.
My point is, Case Keenum over those last 5 weeks is a good barometer. Are you better than Case Keenum? Because you have to be. He was the quarterback 18. Here are quarterbacks behind him over the last very important stretch of the last 5 weeks. Behind him, Phillip Rivers, Jared Goff, Drew Brees, Cam Newton, I mean, the
very
reason
interesting.
I'm hitting this point over and over is next year, we're going to have another episode of like things to remember. But you have to be willing to pivot because some of the guys that came on strong at the end of the year, they were rookies. Absolutely. He was the stallion. During that stretch.
That's when he got his name.
During that stretch, it was not Pat Mahomes over the last 5 weeks who was the number one quarterback. It was Josh Allen, number one quarterback over the last 5 weeks. I know that's surprising, and you might have just vomited.
We will get to him because we're going to finish off the quarterback ones. Kirk Cousins, number 12, but a consistency rank of number 16.
Wait, did he lose several of his cousins, and he's down to one now?
Did you just make a Cousins joke?
No, you did, son.
You
said Kirk Cousin.
Yeah.
You called him Kirk Cousin. Shame on you.
I apologize.
Thank you. Oh, this is the first time we've ever heard for nothing.
Oh,
yes.
there it
is. Oh,
Step into my trap. Kirk Cousins. Now I'll just put multiple S's on it.
It's a Z at this point.
Oh, no. That'll help Kirk.
Yeah.
Read like that guy with a Z on the end of his name.
It's not the rebranding he needs, but it's the rebranding he gets.
Kirk, who did it? Someone just
did
went
it
in the dock, and Kirk Cousins with a Z. He's been rebranded, been reborn. Maybe that will help him finish higher than 12. Only 19% of his games were great. 56% good, which is you're in the meh zone. And 38% of the time he busted. It seemed like things were really hunky-dory over the first half of the season for Kirk Cousins because this team was incredibly pass-happy. They put everything onto Kirk Cousins. Dalvin Cook was beat up. They couldn't get a running game going, so everything was Kirk Cousins or bust. Then the bust came, and they made a change at offensive coordinator, and things changed for Kirk Cousins because from week 11 through the end of the season, I mean, you had no idea what you were possibly going to get from Kirk Cousins. This is not a matter of splits because
he's better on the road.
Yeah, but I mean, like very, very small amount of points. Top 16, bottom 16 defenses. Not a massive split there. It was to me just offensive coordinator change, and
You have to be worried.
You have to be worried because of what Kirk Cousins represented, being he had been a fantasy beast in Washington. Then he goes to Minnesota, has Adam Thielen, Stephon Diggs, and Dalvin Cook. He's one of the possible bounce back candidates for me, but it's going to be a climb for me to talk myself into that.
Yeah, I mean, the offensive coordinator change, sometimes the team stinks and they clear house and they come back with, a new regime and you're not sure what to expect. You're not sure which direction they're going yet. You've got to see it. But we know here. They got rid of DeFilippo because they were passing too much. They wanted to be a defense-first, run-the-ball team. I know they paid a lot of money for Kirk Cousins, but when they believe that that's their best recipe for winning, they paid for Kirk Cousins to win games, not to just throw for 5,000 yards. And once that change was made, everything was about the running game. It hurt Captain Kirk. Now they bring in Gary Kubiak, who I love. He's not the offensive coordinator. He's going to be, what is he, like the some offensive specialist or whatever. But Gary Kubiak brings –
It's just going to be Coobs.
He's going to be Coobs, the Coobs system, which is really the Shanahan system.
Coobs and Cousins. Get some Z's, double Z.
The running game, like I want to hate Dalvin Cook because of what he did to my team personally.
You got to get over that.
But I recognize that. I have to get over it. Dalvin Cook looks set up for success next season. Kirk Cousins does not. To me, I think Kirk Cousins has the passing attempts reined back. He'll be efficient. He'll be okay, but I'm not excited about Kirk Cousins going forward. And like you said, home road didn't matter. Good, bad didn't matter. What did matter is old OC, new OC.
Yep. Number 13, we can get through it pretty quick because it's Cam Newton. Number 13, but consistency rank of number 6. He was fantastic.
He He was magma
for the whole season until the shoulder problem took its toll. So it's just a matter of health next year and draft price for Cam Newton. Do you have anything you really want to focus on?
I'll just say this. Cam will drop like a rock in draft price because of his – if he's not throwing at OTAs, I think people will really be worried about how he finished the season. And I'm going to be fine drafting him because the thing is when he's out there, he's going to be great. And if the shoulder injury pops up,
what if he's going in like round 6?
No, I don't draft a quarterback before
Okay.
round 9.
All right. Yeah, not anything else on
No,
Cam. He's going to be great. It's all about price.
And health and price.
Number 14, this is interesting, Jason, because this is Tom Brady.
Oh,
this is touchdown Tommy. This is the plant man.
The plant man himself.
That's right, Foot Clan. Plant man is finally. This is sticking around. I've casually thrown and messed around with the plant man.
Well, because he eats this diet that is
Plant man knows.
Look, the plant man knows. He knows that is he washed for fantasy? Jason proclaimed the beginning of the end for the Patriots, so boldly beated your chest for it. And to be fair, they're in the Super Bowl. But also to be fair, they were pretty stinky for fantasy aside from Julian Edelman.
Yeah, I mean, look.
And so here we are, Tom Brady, number 14, consistency rank of number 18. What do you make of the plant man?
The plant man is, I mean, obviously he's the GOAT. He's been great for fantasy. He's been better for the NFL than he has been for fantasy.
One passing touchdown or fewer in half his games.
I mean,
that's a destruction of a fantasy league.
His consistency rank was number 18, and that means that he's a guy that hurt you more than he helped you. You have to be, top 12, and you couldn't always tell when it was coming. You could see that they want to run the ball. That's why they spent a first-rounder on Sony Michel, but when he got injured and they had to pass it a little bit more, he was able to do that. Tom Brady is great. I don't believe that he is himself washed up. But he's not a guy that good fantasy players, I believe, will rely on anymore.
2017, Brady was number 3.
Yeah, and that's great.
And that's kind of where he has lived for the past few years. He's been a top 5 guy.
You've seen, I believe, what the Patriots want to do. They want to run the ball more. They want to zig while the NFL zags. That's why they grabbed Sony Michel. And
I think it'll be both. It'll just be another Bill Belichick game planning where the times once you are finally bought into Sony Michel, he's going to come out with 2 games, and Tom Brady's going to throw 4 touchdowns.
Which is exactly what you don't want. You don't want to not be able to predict the games right. The same issue I have with the running backs of New England. Like, okay, Sony's going to be great next year, but I don't really want to draft him because I don't want to have to play the game of, oh, he just got 5 touches for no reason. The matchup looked perfect, and I wasn't Belichick, and he billed me. And so that same thing affects Tom Brady. And the reason I say great fantasy players aren't going to rely on Tom Brady is simply because his name costs way too much.
But what if he goes late? What if finishing 14th overall is going to put a ding on the fantasy value of Tom Brady?
I would say most average leagues, there will be someone who grabs Tom Brady, in the 7th round. He's the greatest of all time. Like I said, he's been good for fantasy in the past, and I think you're not going to return value there. Not on Brady.
Number 15, Mitch Trubisky. Jay Grizz getting a little sweaty over there. Do bears sweat? I doubt it.
I'll bet they do.
Well, it's like dogs. Furry animals, I believe they do not perspire. The heat comes out of their mouth.
Is that true?
Yeah, dogs don't sweat. That's why they pant, because all the heat instead of
your
body.
When we host, it's like the more you know comes.
Hold on, you keep riffing. I gotta find it.
Comes from Mike Wright. This is like get things right.
The more you know.
Look, we got to drop science on people from time to time.
Yeah, apparently.
But yes, so Mitch Trubisky getting hot and bothered. I mean, I guess Jake Riss. I don't know what Mitchell's up to these days.
Do you remember? He's up to sucking in the Pro Bowl. In fairness, he was terrible. In the Pro Bowl. Do you remember Week 4? I sure do.
Look, America remembers. This is a day that will live in infamy because Mitch was bad. It did not look like it was going to work out. We had a new head coach in place. We had dubbed Mitch Trubisky the Jared Goff of the season to get a bounce back from an offensive coach. First 3 weeks, terrible. Then Week 4 happened.
Then is when I came out and firmly established, I mean, totally. And
I wish we had the clip.
I doubled down, I tripled down, I quadrupled down that Mitchell Trubisky will never be a great quarterback. Those were my words, and the fact that I doubled and tripled and quadrupled down.
This is your take in Week 4, Jay.
Yeah, well, and then he goes out and throws, 6 touchdowns, something
It
like
was 43.5 fantasy points.
I mean, it was unbelievable. And then he comes back with a game.
And this is when you quintupled down.
Yes, and then boom, another good game. Boom, another good game. But the truth is, Mitchell Trubisky had, we're talking, what is the truth of Trubisky? We didn't doctor these rankings and make them serve our purposes. His consistency ranking was quarterback 24. He had games of 14, 5, 8, 4, 10, 12. Like, these are games that crushed you.
Yeah.
You did not succeed with Mitchell Trubisky outside of a 1 month window from weeks 4 through 8 where he was fantastic. So
and you can see that in his percentage scores. 29% of his games were great. That's a strong number.
that is a great number. That pretty much was that month plus week 10.
But 43% good. That's bad.
That is not good, but here's the
That is not good. That is bad.
That is bad. Here's the real bad one.
57% of the time he busted.
Yeah, that's not in the top 16 quarterbacks. He helped ruin your week if you started him. And so what is the truth of Mitch Trubisky?
Yeah, I want to know where the flag is, Jason.
My flag has not changed one bit.
It's
and
not
I know,
half-mast. It's still you've got the skull and crossbones up top.
Here's the thing.
Jolly Roger.
Here's the actual truth of what I believe about Mitch Trubisky, which has not changed, but because I was so adamant that he'll never be a great quarterback, I think it was taken to say that I think he outright sucks. I don't believe he can be a great quarterback, but I love the system. I love Matt Nagy.
People probably think that because I believe you said in one of these rants, you did say that he sucks.
I would have to see the tape.
We have tape.
We do have tape. I would love to see it because if I said that, I will apologize.
Speaking of
for
tape, Brooks, where's that highlight reel?
Yeah.
You're too busy gallivanting up into the north,
Stay tuned.
taking vacations, Brooks.
Stay warm, my friends.
Oh yeah, the north.
In
Goodness.
honor of the people up north, today I am rocking shorts and flip-flops.
You're a terrible person.
No, I just look. They need to know that somebody out there can still do it.
All right, is it?
But what is the truth next year? Is Mitchell Trubisky someone that you're going to be on?
I am definitely interested. I am not going to dub him the next great thing. I am not going to chase the points of Mitch Trubisky. But like you said, you want a quarterback who can boom, boom, pow.
Yes.
And Mitch Trubisky will probably still be a late-round guy, and he's shown that with his rushing ability, he can absolutely explode on any given week.
Yeah, I mean, Cam Newton's always been a boom-bust guy, and he busted only 21% of the time, and that was with a busted shoulder. So
but
I'm going to stay away from Mitchell, but that's no surprise.
All right, we're just going to pick and choose from quarterbacks. So, Jay, is there anyone that you want to highlight?
The one guy I think has to be talked about is the Stallion himself.
Wild Josh Stallion. Excellent.
Love Michael Keaton. Look, here's the weird thing about Josh Allen. Consistency rank over the course of the season, he was number 17. He finished as the number 21 quarterback. Here's what is
he missed a huge portion of the year.
huge portion from week 7 through 11. He went dark. He got injured in week 6, and so you go, okay. He had pretty much the worst beginning to the season that you can imagine. I mean, it was just not pretty. His first few weeks, 13 points. Then he had a good game, 27, 1 point, 9
That was
points.
week 3. That was the game against the Vikings.
Yeah, oh, that's right, that they were supposed to lose.
Like 17-point dogs.
So here's what's crazy. If his season looked like that first half of the season, his consistency score would have been 34.
Okay.
Keep in mind there are only 32 quarterbacks. He would have
All
been the 34th most consistent. However, if you take away those games and you look at what happened the second half of the year, which, truth be told, I think is more indicative, especially for a rookie quarterback. He comes back off the injury. He's healthy. They've figured him out a little bit more. They've got their team clicking.
He figured out who he is, and he figured out what his team is.
He figured out, I'm going to run the ball.
Yeah.
And he would have been the number 2 most consistent quarterback from that second half. So it's the definition of inconsistency, and yet at the end of the year he was hyper consistent. I buy into Josh Allen being a really good option for fantasy football. I mean,
we're not going to hear what you're not saying. So you're talking about fantasy football.
Yes, for fantasy football, I think he's going to have enough rushing yards to be great. I mean, there are plenty of guys. You know, I don't think that Tyrod Taylor was a great NFL player personally, but for fantasy, because scoring is broken and rushing quarterbacks are so valuable and so much more consistent because of their baseline. How do you go away from using Josh Allen the way that he dominated the last 5 weeks of the season?
All right, so let's talk about another quarterback who's known for his rushing. Let's compare these guys. You're interested in Josh Allen. Where are you on Lamar Jackson? Consistency rank of number 10.
Yeah,
when he came in week 11, he was solid for fantasy. He wasn't giving you everything you had hoped for in a rushing quarterback, but he was still solid. He led the team to the playoffs. So, I mean, this is Lamar Jackson's team.
I would take Lamar Jackson over Josh Allen in
Okay.
next year's draft.
All right.
I don't believe for 1 second. We talked about this in the studio. I know you agree. I don't believe for 1 second that Lamar Jackson is going to be able to hold up for an entire season if they continue using him in the running game the way that they did this season. I don't doubt that they dial it back a little, but he's so unbelievable in open space as a runner that he obviously will continue that baseline. But when you, like, similar to Cam, I'm not afraid of drafting Cam. I'm not afraid of drafting Lamar Jackson or Josh Allen. Will one or all three of those guys possibly get injured halfway through the year because of their style of play? Sure. But guess what I'll do at that point? I'll just pivot.
Yeah.
I'll just go to another guy. I'll go to the Lamar Jackson that pops up or the Josh Allen that pops up.
As we're
the
going
second half
through
of the
this,
season.
It's just reinforcing for me again of how many quarterbacks I like
Oh, yeah. I mean,
and will be happy to take late in a draft.
think about Carson Wentz. Let's bring up Carson Wentz.
Yes, he was going to
because-
be the next name I go to, so people do not forget the regression was real. The touchdown regression was real for Carson Wentz.
He had no great games.
Yeah, which, man.
No
that's-
top 3 type performances.
I mean, he
None
had-
of those weak winners.
He had 1 week where he was just an absolute butt hair away in week 6, 24.5 points. So I'll give him credit for that one. But 73% of the time he was good. Only 27% of the time did he bust in his shortened season. So it's just a reminder. Carson Wentz is still good for fantasy football. Hopefully his draft price, though, will get the proper adjustment that it deserved.
Yeah.
Because Carson Wentz, to me, was not a top 3 guy like he was crushing in 2017.
Coming off of the back issue, he'll get a solid bump down in ADP, and he'll be a very interesting guy for me. I think that he's talented. He can run the ball. He obviously can throw touchdowns like he did 2 seasons ago, and I think if you take that run that Nick Foles had, if you put a healthy Carson Wentz in, it's probably Wentz having that run. And then he's being drafted very high. The back issue, I don't believe will be an issue come the start of the season. So, I'm totally in on Carson Wentz again. It's exactly what you said. There are so many good quarterbacks that all have a chance. Like, usually when we talk about late quarterbacks, they don't have a chance of being top 3.
Right.
They're just guys like a Phillip Rivers that you could grab them late, Matthew Stafford of years past, or guys like that, where you can grab them super late and they're going to produce. But you have a handful of guys that are going to go late that have the chance to be legitimately a top 3 quarterback in your Lamar Jacksons and Carson Wentz's, and I'll throw one more name out there. Can't forget about Jameis Winston. He was a top 12.
Before we got into it, I just wanted to say, do you know how long this podcast has been so far, Jason?
Oh, I do.
Oh, let's talk about Jameis Winston, number 22 on the season. However, consistency rank of number 12. Of course, number 22 because he started the year with a suspension.
And then he got
then
benched.
Ryan Fitzpatrick came in and stole his lunch money. But Jameis Winston, 22% of the time great, 67% of the time good, 33% of the time busted. That number's a little bit high, but Jameis Winston's going to go lower in drafts. I mean, the Bucs quarterback collected the 5th most fantasy points at the quarterback position. It was, or posted, I say, the 5th most quarterback points since 2006. Bucs quarterback was great.
And
now, go ahead.
And now you get Bruce Arians, who I think is perfect for Jameis Winston. He's a no-risk-it, no-biscuit guy. He wants to throw deep, go down the field. He is a match made in heaven for Jameis. I believe that Jameis Winston is the perfect late-round quarterback because you look at his splits against good defenses and bad defenses. We brought this up on the previous episode. When you see a guy beaten up on the weak defenses, he had 5 weeks versus the bottom 16, in which he scored 27.9 points per game on average. So he was a great performance on average against the bad competition, and only 19 points per game against the top 16. That's what you want when you're streaming the position. Grab Jameis Winston and grab another guy, and when you've got the right matchup, play Jameis. And when you got a bad matchup, you're confident enough to bench him. He's perfect for fantasy.
What do you get when you combine Jameis Winston and Bruce Arians?
What?
Crab biscuits.
Yeah, that's the right drop.
Look, I had the button ready.
I don't get it. I don't like it. But I love
You don't get it?
But I love that it happened. Crab biscuits.
All right.
Oh, Jameis Winston
Really?
got the crab. The biscuit.
Brooks, do you get it?
Okay.
The crab legs?
Yeah, I remember the crab legs from college with.
No risk it, no biscuit. Crabs.
But what is a crab biscuit? That's not a thing.
It is now.
No, you saying crab biscuit doesn't make crab biscuits a thing. That was the problem with the joke.
I am thinking of something.
You're thinking of crab cakes?
Crab cakes.
Okay, so. Oh my goodness! No. Wow, that was yes.
I don't eat them.
That was nobody does because crab biscuits aren't a thing. Oh my goodness, that was the worst joke in the history of the fantasy. And please understand, we've had so many bad jokes. I mean, that's kind of what we do here. Dad jokes, bad jokes. But
Crab cakes.
go enjoy your crab biscuits.
Look, that's what my grandpa used to say. Love me a crab biscuit.
No risk it, no crab biscuit. Wow. All right. I think that's a good that's a good time to go into the
my bad. Hey, before we close out the show.
Pristine deal of the day.
Pristine deal of the day, our studio sponsor, Pristine Auction. Somebody yesterday snagged a signed Amari Cooper jersey, a JSA certified signature.
$67 for a signed jersey. This must be an Oakland Raiders jersey.
I mean, no, signed Cowboys.
Cowboys signed jersey for Cooper.
Brooks, are you ashamed of yourself that you let that go?
What is it, you, Brooks?
Yes, I am shaved.
Oh, all
you
right.
let that happen.
Hey, make sure you go check out Pristine Auction. They're awesome. They are a great supporter of this podcast. And
hundreds of new things every day.
Every day. Make a completely free account. Make sure you let them know that the Fantasy Footballer sent you.
Jason, I got to close out the show before I say anything stupider. You want to say anything? Save me, Jason.
Crab biscuits!
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.
And Foot Clan, clean up your remote control clutter in time for the Super Bowl with Control Center by Cavo. With one universal voice remote, just say what you want to watch, and Control Center will take you straight there so you can finally get off AV duty. Bring the joy back to watching TV. Shop now just in time for Super Bowl Sunday. Get 40% off Control Center with promo code FOOTBALLERS. Control Center is available at caavo.com and Best Buy. Control Center by Cavo, one remote that does it all.